Hi there everyone, Lars here with another Amphibia review brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And I am trying out in a quick succession of videos to do something that we haven't done before. Do some episode breakdowns as the episodes of a particular show come out, but try to keep it sweet and simple, not just reviewing the story within the episode, but looking at specific writing advice that we as writers can take out of this. So the goal is to not have like 12 to 15 minute long videos, we'll see how well this goes, and just get right to the point. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. The most recent episode in Amphibia, Escape to Amphibia, was phenomenal. This was an absolutely beautiful episode, and ultimately it is what I like to call a culmination point. It was a culmination episode, meaning that tons of different things that have happened previously within the story now all come to a head. Everything revolving around Anne getting back together with her parents, reconciling the relationship with her mother especially, the planters learning more about the human world, and then meeting all of their different friends along the way, all finally comes to a head as the planters finally get back to Amphibia, but they also have to overcome the machinations and schemes of one Mr. X. This is a great strength that the series Amphibia has in general, in that there are really no filler episodes within the entire series. And I know there's plenty of people who disagree with me when I say that, but really when you look back at it, all of these different people that we see in this episode and so much else all really comes together from plenty of other episodes previously to show, yeah, this was built up. This didn't just happen. And that is awesome. That is something that you really want to see within a story. You want to see that the journey that the characters have gone on really matters, and that so many chapters that you've spent with them also matter, that there's no real filler. And that is something that is very easy to get wrong, especially for novice writers. It's very easy to just pack your story full of fluff, and fluff is nice like cotton candy, but ultimately it is not filling nor rewarding. And Amphibia does a great job of keeping things streamlined so that way you get what is actually important. Now, this brings up a comment I made in a previous video about the show's pacing, and really we do see where some of the pacing problems in the first half of the season kind of come to bear, because the show did focus in on all of these other little side stories, helping to bring out more of the relationship between Anne, her parents, and the planters. Well, we didn't get a whole lot of Mr. X, and that's kind of sad because Mr. X in this episode was a phenomenal antagonist who really pressed all the buttons, really made it very difficult for the heroes to win. This was him on his A game, and I think it would have been great to have seen Mr. X on his A game previously, so that way, really then, when he confronts Anne later on and says, "You're just a kid," this is something then that he had been trying to slam into her again and again and again each time that they met. With the previous two times that Mr. X and the Boon Choice have crossed paths, it didn't really come across as strongly as I hoped it would. Now, let's get to something that everyone is talking about within the fan base. The reference to Rogue One, specifically the Halls Away scene with Darth Vader. This moment was epic. I loved it. The delivery was fantastic. It was on point. It was even brilliantly set up earlier on in the episode with Anne and her parents pretty much doing the whole Star Wars theme right there, and with a haunting callback to what happened to Marcy back in True Colors. And because I love the Darth Vader hallway scene so much, I edited it together with the hallway scene with Anne, and it is a thing of beauty.
It says pull, dude.
But this also was a really great scene because it actually helped to solidify something that I had been wondering about going back to season 1. How was Anne so good with the sword? She already came with a certain skill set to the blade before she even had her time at the daycare. So where did that come from? It now makes sense. The Boonchoys have been playing around with swords for years, and all it really took was for Anne to have those skills refined in Amphibia, and now she is a true blade master. That is awesome. Once again, this is a culmination point. But this whole hallway scene is really great for another reason. This is referencing done very, very well. Again, this is something that novice writers run into a whole lot. How do I reference something that I really like an anime or a movie or a book or some cultural phenomena without doing some sort of copyright nonsense or without coming across as really kitschy or whatever? It just doesn't seem right. It's blocky, it's bumpy, bleh. There's a lot of problems that come with making direct references to other people's works. I should know because in my own works, since I write stories where people use their imaginations for magic, imagination is inspired by what other people do. So I either have to come up with things that are very similar to stuff like Star Wars and anime, or I have to reference actual things in our real world. I go with the second choice, which then means I have to worry about copyright issues. So how then do you do references in a way that don't get you into trouble? Well, there are ultimately two things you can do. Number one, you make just a passing reference to it and you hope that your audience catches it. That can be really subtle and really cool, or it can also be really frustrating. The second thing to do is to just lean right on into that reference and just have a blast with it. Basically clubbing your readers and your audience over the head with it. Amphibia here goes with the second approach. And it was done phenomenally well. Just like what they did in Rogue One, they perfectly set up the scene and then they execute it beautifully. I freaking love it. Now, getting back to the story, I love what we get at the very, very end of the episode, where we get that very brief glimpse of what is going on in Amphibia. We now see that the planet is being devastated by Andreas's mobilization for intergalactic war. And this was haunting, it was beautiful, and again, it was a great culmination of things that have been set up previously. And it begins to help us better understand what the Newtopian Empire actually was before the Calamity Box disappeared. This place, as I've referenced before, was basically Rome. However, it was the worst version of Rome that we can think of. Rome didn't just obliterate what was around it and then claim a bunch of empty land. Rome conquered other people and then used those people for resources and taxes to fuel this massive empire through which they believed that they were basically benefiting the whole world through their technology, their brilliance, and security. What we see right here with Newtopia is that Newtopia isn't doing that. Newtopia is stripping planets bare. And this now makes sense why there's a menagerie underneath the castle. It's not just simply trophies, but that's what's left of other planets that the Newts destroyed as they expanded the amphibian, or better said, the Newtopian Empire across the cosmos. And that realization helps to again set us up for something that we saw in one of the very brief promos for the finale, is that we are going to learn more about the past. This moment right here isn't just simply to show, whoa, Andreas really is a threat, but it's also a brief moment to prime us for some real bombshells and revelations later on down the road of what actually happened in Andreas's past. Now, to wrap things up, let's quickly talk about world hopping. So yeah, we get to see that Anne and the Planters have made it back to Amphibia, which is awesome, but what is really great, and I love this reference, is that the music from Gravity Falls is used to locate where Amphibia is in the multiverse. Now then, I know a lot of people have said there's no way that these shows are going to cross over, that everything is just Easter eggs, but again, there have just been so many Easter eggs that after a while, it's no longer just making references to stuff. Quite clearly, there is a strong connection. And something that I really do like when we actually get into the nuance of Terry's portal building is that though Terry is a genius and they do a great job of constructing this portal, it is incomplete. It is insufficient. The only way to get it rolling again is for Anne to tap into her Calamity powers and fully energize the portal. This is very important to note right here because this again speaks to the fact that Earth doesn't really have much in the way of strong magic or strong powers in and of itself to actually reach other worlds out there in the multiverse, something that is established in both the Owl House and in Gravity Falls. And this makes the relationship between Bill and Ford very, very important because Bill was teaching Ford how to build a portal that could be powered using Earth's technology and resources in a way that no one else could. Not even Fiddleford understood the science behind this powerful portal. And that once again shows the influence that a character like Bill Cipher has upon this connected cartoon universe, as well as the underlying danger that he still represents, because his knowledge, his power is so great that it was enough to bridge worlds in places where people would not be expecting it, where they're not prepared for it. And the subject of portals is something that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out for in Amphibia and the Owl House, because there is a lot that is right now being done in terms of world hopping that is very, very important for those who are looking for that connected cartoon universe. So that's something that we should keep an eye out for. I know some people have asked me to do a follow-up video to the cartoon universe theory that I did a little while back. I am holding off on doing a full-on video for a little bit because I need to learn more about how world hopping is established between these different shows. And already some of the stuff that we're getting is fantastic. So with all that being said, yeah, I know I kind of have reached the length that I said I wanted to avoid. Well, we're going to see what we can do, because I do want to make sure that these videos, if they are viable, are done in such a way that they can be streamlined, and so that way I am not devoting all of the time and resources that it normally takes to do a video, because, well, I am right now working on 2 books behind the scenes, 2 books that I hope to publish later this year. Woohoo! So, yay, I am busy. Who needs sleep? In any case, coming back quickly to Escape to Amphibia, what are the things that we as novice writers should take away from this? Number 1, you need culmination points within your story. Moments within your story that show that the journey that the characters have gone on so far was worth it, and that everything that they did mattered. Secondly, when you do references within a story, think about how you want to use those references. Are you going to be subtle, or are you going to bash people over the head with it? You have to kind of choose one or the other, because if you try to find a middle ground, weirdly enough, there is no good middle ground. That's where it gets all wibbly wonky and just blocky and kind of causes things to stumble and get weird. I honestly don't understand why it is that way. It just is. Lastly, world hopping. Whoo boy, I'm going to get more into this when I later on do an analysis of how you do portal fantasy. Portal fantasy is very interesting because it's something that you could simply wave your hand and say, voila, someone has ended up in another world. However, the best portal fantasies have brilliant explanations for how worlds are connected, and they play into that, not just simply to get a character from one world to the other, but they use those explanations throughout the story to enforce the potential of jumping between worlds. That is something that I'm going to get into, as I said, with a later analysis. I'm going to hold off on that until we've seen the end of Amphibia and seen the end of the Owl House Season 2, because these shows are 2 fine examples of what one can do with portal fantasy. So that being said, if you're looking for more writing advice, please check out our other videos here on YouTube. You can also check out our podcast episodes found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have writing exercises over at our Pinterest page, and we would love for all of you novice writers to join our growing community of authors. Links for all of those sites and more are down in the description. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.